Good morning, Philadelphia, and all of the ships at sea. This is your girl, Amber E, with the piping hot tea. This is my tea. What's yours? I love the smell of Earl Grey in the morning. Just putting that out there. Happy Saturday, Philadelphia, and everyone else listening from, I love that I get to say this, listening from everywhere, from New York to Jersey to California to Virginia. Oh my goodness gracious. It makes my heart super, super happy to know that there really is representation both on the East Coast and the West Coast of the AmFam. And of course, you all know that I do host my EPs online on my YouTube channel, Tea with Amber E. So if you do miss this live, you can always listen later. And again, visual aid ain't never hurt nobody. The proof is in the pudding, good people. So I hope that you have had a wonderful week, AmFam. I know that this is a season of ups and downs, but I do want to remind everyone, and it's something that I've had to remind myself of quite a bit this week, that the pluses will outweigh the minuses, that the ups will outweigh the downs, and that we truly are stronger together. And so I just want you all to know, as I say more often than not, but me having a bit of a moment, I'm going to say this to y'all, and I'm going to say it to me too. You did your week. Go on with your bad self. You took the rest that you needed. You got the tasks taken care of. You made yourself a to-do list. You made the phone calls. You gave the hugs. You gave the kisses. You made the meals. You took the woosahs. And if nobody else did that, you did that. You go ahead with your bad self. I said what I said, AmFam. And I really hope that you stand in solidarity with me about that. By the way, if you're listening, you don't see this, but if you do watch it back, you will. Today I am, for those of you who don't know, while I do love my vintage clothing because I am a swing dancer, and while I do love my pleated skirts because I love a classic look, I do. I'm also quite the t-shirt and jeans girl. I always have been. Really, give me a graphic tee and a pair of Chuck Taylors and I'm happier than something. Couldn't come up with the analogy. It's it's okay. I was gonna say a rich person in Maui, but I mean, it's subjective, I guess. I don't know. Bottom line is, I do love a good t-shirt. And today's t-shirt I'm wearing actually says solidarity is a verb. And I'm wearing it for two reasons. First of all, me being the wordsmith that I am, solidarity is indeed defined as, quote, unity and mutual support based on shared goals, interests, or sympathies within a group, happening when people stand together to help one another, especially during hard times or social struggles. An independent trade union movement in Poland. Yeah, first one we're going to stick with. But the long short of it is I'm bringing that up for three reasons, really. One, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but in talking a lot about Miss Rachel last week and how she's standing in solidarity with Nolan Wells and her mother, and again, I'm going to get into that a little more in a bit. She's also become very vocal this week about supporting Black-owned businesses, and being a person who stands in solidarity, I really do think comes with a price, but the price is worth paying. And do you know what I find quite intriguing about that very principle? It's often the people who do the dangerous things and stand in solidarity that we talk about many, 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 many moons later. I think it's quite intriguing that I can speak today. The late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Anne Frank were born in the same year. And I think on those things because, and before I forget, so was Barbara Walters. All three of them were born in the same year. And so before people say things like, oh, it was too long ago, or, oh, I can't relate to that, quite frankly, I think about, again, Barbara's no longer with us, but I think about how her passing, first of all, wasn't too long ago, and on top of that, she lived well into my lifetime. And so, again, I just want to put out there that you did that thing this week, you did what you had to do, but there's something very powerful about when we do these things together. And so I just wanted to, toot my own horn, bang my own drum, ring my own bell, and say I am proud of us, AmFam. I'm saying us for a reason. Today's tea is, quite frankly, a throwback. It's an English breakfast. I know I said I love the smell of Earl Grey in the morning, and I do, because really it smells like perfumes and hugs and Sylvia Earles and the Russian tea room and my childhood all wrapped up in one. But on top of that, I also do love a good English breakfast. By the way, I was at a coffee house in Bryn Mawr a couple of weeks ago, and it was a lovely experience. And we were talking about different kinds of teas, and actually I had a golden tulsi or holy basil blend, quite delicious. I guess I'm finally warming up to the herbals, the herbal teas, that is. And I mentioned to the barista behind the table that I'd read somewhere at another coffee house in the other side of, really the other side of Pennsylvania, where someone said that Earl Grey tea smells like and tastes a little like Lucky Charms. I don't know how to respond to that. I get it, and if you really do think on it and you're looking at it to market to a younger generation or demographic, okay, but let's just shift, all right? This is English breakfast. We're not talking about Earl Grey today. So, fam, it's a simple Earl Grey. No frills, no spills, and I am actually drinking from my Hope cup today because I need a little bit more hope today than I did yesterday. And remember, hope deferred makes the heart sick. So, you ready, fam? I know I am. Hey, spoons up. Put the tea back in, Amber. Here we go. Round and round's a dreadful show. Back and forth is how we go. From 6 to 12 and back again. Back and forth to stay within. I will give you a topic. Solidarity in our neighborhoods makes us stronger than the opposition wants us to believe. So let's get stronger together. Discuss. That is never going to get old. Oh my gosh. I love black teas. I know I'm maybe like a late convert, so to speak, to my herbals, but I have my favorites for a reason, y'all. I can't help it. It's all so delicious. Oh, just keep talking. Solidarity, y'all got it. Child. That is hitting all the right notes. Oh, that's so fabulous. Put in the comments what teas get. I mean, again, I know I'm quite the demonstrative person. I'll be the first person to admit it. I just did. But put in the comments or talk amongst yourselves, what teas make you happy? Are you a black tea person? Are you an herbal person? I know someone who really is a peach zinger person or a raspberry zinger person. I do those things, and this is kind of where I'll shout out my cousin Wayman, where he talks to me about hibiscus. And again, I talked a lot about that during the Juneteenth episode or Juneteenth season 2 with Amber E. How I'll go to fruitier blends or not such black tea blends when I'm looking for some kind of healthier substitute. You know, I'll even give more of a throwback to, I'll even give more of a throwback to Juneteenth, where I actually did a presentation on the holiday, and I made hibiscus tea. And, you know, we have hibiscus tea versus red drink versus strawberry soda, the whole nine. And again, I look for the healthier alternative. And so, yes, I will indeed do that. But good people and fam, all the ships at sea. This is True Blue, the English breakfast. You can do no wrong with it. If you did wrong with it, we need to talk later. Oh my goodness gracious, child, woohoo! By the way, fam, I hope that, in me being a demonstrative individual, I hope that you enjoyed going outside this morning as much as I did. There's something to be said about the seasons changing. I know, myself included, many people can get a little discouraged when things shift. I get that means that our attire has to change. You may have to up on our immune systems. I know that means that we may have to change where we go at what time of day. Excuse me. I know it might mean that we may not be able to go certain places during the day, or we may have to go in sooner. I get that change can be inconvenient, to put it lightly. But I also know, first of all, seasons change, but seasons don't last forever. And also that there really is beauty in the shift. That's one thing, and again, I'm speaking a little early for the seasons, quite frankly, because we're still in late summer. But I really am thankful that even when we start to shift from summer to fall, and here I will say I went into the grocery store yesterday, I did see some bags of Starbucks pumpkin spice. And in hindsight, I should have taken a picture of it. But my goodness gracious, it definitely made me go, it's begun. It's here. Oh my goodness, they're pushing it really good. The bubbles and the flip-flops are 75% off. But you know, in a weird way, that subtle change is indicative of something even bigger coming, but it's not slapping us in the face. And I do, going back to solidarity, I do want us to stand strong with people that affect us directly or may not affect us at all, but we see the struggle as human beings. I mentioned this last week on to with Amber E. when I was mentioning Miss Rachel, that I really respect that she made that call to Nolan Wells' mother and basically said, you're a mother and what do you need? Or my heart goes out to you. It may not be me. I'm not a black mother. I did not lose a black son, but I am a fellow human being who sees your pain. How can I stand with you? What can I do for you? What can I do for your community? What do you need? How can I, as someone on the outside who doesn't directly identify, still do the right humane thing and love on you? And with the seasons changing, even though that's unfortunately a drastic but common occurrence in our nation, especially, or even, dare I say, in our world, I really do want us to remember, and I'm needing to hear myself say this also, that there really is strength in asking for help, and strength in numbers, and being alert and sharp about what those changes entail really does bring success. So, oh my goodness, if y'all can't tell, I am having a good old morning. Yes, I am. The coolness of the air. A quick shout out to R.D. Brooke, who published their book this week, The Indignities of Miss D. Helped them out with that. I am an editor, and so I'm just very, very proud of them. And while I am talking about books and literacy and, you know, definitions like solidarity, I want to go back to Nolan Wells for a second. You know that I've been watching this, a lot of us have been watching this pretty closely. And here's part of the, I'm going to try to say this very carefully. Very carefully. I understand that the shock value of bad news does just that. It shocks us. It brings us alertness. Who did what when someone was hanging what? And it makes people ask questions. The problem, and I think that the media does this on purpose, something can easily become yesterday's news. And I don't want that to sound disrespectful, but I am saying it because I do not want the story of Nolan Wells, the unsolved murder of Nolan Wells, or death, to fade into the background because people are still looking for answers. There was an article that was posted in The Guardian, this would have been yesterday at 7:02 p.m. Eastern Time, that talked about how Nolan, and I quote, Nolan Wells' parents recount the ordeal of their son's death at an Atlanta convention. On Thursday, and I'm quoting the article, on Thursday morning, the parents of Nolan Wells, Christine Wells Wansley and Elmore Wansley, along with Ben Crump, the civil rights attorney, and Reverend Al Sharpton, the famed civil rights activist, spoke at the National Association of Black Journalists, or the NABJ, convention in Atlanta. As we know, Wells was an 18-year-old college student who was found dead on July 6th after a boating trip with friends, and his death captured national attention. During Thursday's talk, moderated by Tiffany Cross, who's a journalist, Wells Wansley, again, that is Nolan Wells' mother, and Wansley, her husband, narrated the days with which Wells was still missing, leading up to the day that their son's body was found. They described a harrowing string of events, including a lack of urgency by law enforcement and what they call quote-unquote inconsistencies in narratives and information provided by some of Wells' friends. Wells Wansley also described the numerous professional and personal attacks she has received since her son's death. And that one part in particular really just makes me very upset. John, and I'm going further in the article, John Ledbetter, who is Jackson County Sheriff, has said that he does not suspect, let me read that again, he does not suspect any foul play in Wells' death, and that the others on the boat are cooperating with the police investigations. No suspects have been named, nor has anyone been taken into custody with regards to Wells' disappearance and death. 3 people have been arrested, however, in separate cases, so on and so forth. And again, more than a month later, though, Wells' family is still demanding answers. They don't know why the teen did not return to his friends, nor when or how he died. The state of Mississippi has not yet released its autopsy. The Jackson County District Attorney says the autopsy would not be released until a grand jury was convened. An independent autopsy commissioned by Wells' family said the teen's cause of death was inconclusive. And people are pushing back on Miss Rachel. Why exactly? Because when we hear something like that, I am not a mother. I'm an English teacher. We're going to get to that in a bit too. Shout. Yes, we are. But I do hold my students, who I consider my children, maybe not of my body, but definitely of my heart. I worry about them. I pray for them. I think about how they're doing, and I think to myself, what do we need to do in order to make sure that they stay safe? And so I'm bringing all this around to say, even going back to said article where, again, Christine Wells Wansley, Nolan's mother, says that she has received, again, quote, professional and personal attacks since her son was killed. Are you kidding? Or since her son's death? Because, again, we still don't have all the answers. Are you kidding me? Really, no? Oh, dropped my glasses. Shot almost had a moment. Caught him. It's all good. But really, it's so eye-opening to what is considered good news, relevant news, or things that people may consider staying out of the way of, because maybe getting too close to the truth seems uncomfortable. And maybe talking about these things make it so that, oh, now do I have to do something? At the very least, you have to stay informed. One of the most amazing things about being alive at the greatest time in modern history is that everything that we need, we can get in seconds. Actually, let me correct myself. Everything that we need, we can get in moments. Seconds take too long. And so we have computers in our back pockets. We can get our emails, our phone calls, and everything. We can watch TV on our phones. And you're going to tell me that not knowing what's going on is acceptable? I'm not saying we need to get entrenched in this. Because, again, I'm not saying we should go from one extreme to the other. I'm not saying that becoming so consumed by all this darkness is healthy. Good morning, Ari. Happy trails. I'm not saying any of those things. What I am saying is that hiding behind ignorance is a luxury that we as human beings really can't afford. We really never could, but now that everything is becoming so overt and people are really putting on blast what is happening in our world, quite frankly, we can't hide anymore. Which leads me to something else I talked about, albeit briefly last week. This one's hard. Taking a tea break. Keep talking. Solidarity. Please discuss. Just give me a second, please. I need a tea fuel, Anne. Thanks for being patient with me. As I did mention last week, Tasia Fortune was the young lady, the 29-year-old black woman who was found hanging outside of an abandoned house. And according to an article from WBAL TV Baltimore, via the Associated Press, and I quote, "The hanging death of Tasia Fortune, whose body was found outside an abandoned house, has shaken her family and community in Mississippi, where 2 other people have been found hanging from trees in less than a year. Police have not indicated whether they consider the 29-year-old black woman's death suspicious." That's interesting wording. Saying that they are only actively working, quote, "to determine the circumstances surrounding her death." A week after Fortune's body was found, a pink and white memorial honoring her life stood as a bright spot Monday in the otherwise this is worded so intriguingly. Let me read that again, my dears. A week after Fortune's body was found, a pink and white memorial honoring her life stood as a bright spot Monday in the otherwise overgrown backyard of the abandoned house in Jackson, feet from where rainbow pinwheels, white flowers, and teddy bears surround a photograph of Fortune. Empty chip bags and discarded plastic bottles littered the ground. Okay. Let me scroll down a little bit. When was she last heard? Christy Spivey, her mother, told ABC News on Sunday that she last saw her daughter on July 26th. Fortune, a mother of 4 who has lived in Mississippi for more than 10 years, had traveled to Kentucky for a family reunion. My goodness gracious. Again, this was written August the 11th. And again, there's still investigations pending. But I'm actually going to shift a little bit more. There was an article also that I'll cite from ABC News that was written on the 12th that says the Jackson Police Department released a statement regarding an autopsy for Tasia Fortune, a 29-year-old black woman whose body was found hanging from a tree on August 3rd in Jackson, Mississippi. The department said that Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office concluded the autopsy on Tuesday, and the police department has not received an official cause or manner of death. The investigation remains classified as a death pending investigation while they await the medical examiner's findings. quote, "The Jackson Police Department is aware of the significant public attention surrounding Ms. Fortune's death, as well as information and speculation circulating across social media and other platforms. We recognize the deeply sensitive nature of this case and the understandable concern within the community," end quote. And so again, it's a matter of wondering how much do we dig into this. And please hear what I am saying, Ann fam. I'm saying this over tea with my dears, with you. Gauge how much you can handle. Find your community and find the safe spaces. But do not hide, because we need one another. To take a page from Miss Rachel, I know that it may not affect folk directly, but I do think it affects all of us one way or the other, because if one human being's passing is suspicious, if one mother's passing I'm sorry, not mother's passing, if one mother's pain from losing her son and getting threats is not triggering something in your soul, then what does that say about our society as a whole? And I know this is a bit of a hard pivot, but one thing I also wanted to mention, and this is a little more of a lighthearted quasi, I'm using this term very lightly, lighthearted story. One other thing that I definitely want to talk about, as being an aforementioned educator, was how, I'm guessing we've all seen it in one capacity or another. There was a Texas teacher who has posted a now viral video circulating where he's been in tears regarding his students, the first days of school, not being able to read or being considered illiterate. According to an article on yahoo.com, again, he's very upset about how for some reason you have these seniors who are not understanding just how important it is to have an education, know how to be able to read. And let me actually take that back, because that's really not a fair thing to say. I take that back. I apologize. It's not so much that they don't understand, it's just, I guess what I'll say from personal experience, we have to do better. And I'm going to continue more in this next week, Ann fam, because I really do want to break this down more. As an educator, I really can understand where he's coming from. And now, mind you, there's also an article on yahoo.com where they talk about, since he's such a multi-hyphenate, he actually was a chef at one point, he was a banker at one point, so on and so forth. Is he the person to say, oh, our kids aren't getting the information that they need, and so on and so forth? And I really do think, and this is where I come from as a sub, as having, what am I trying to say? Having experience as a substitute teacher. I really do believe, and I make no apology for this whatsoever, that every human being who lives in the United States of America needs to work as a substitute teacher and or in the school system in one way or the other and work in retail. And I take no backsies on that. At some point, especially for those who may have been in administration for a long time, thank you for what you do. But every now and then I notice there can be a separation where people who, no matter what your vocation is inside of schools or not, I really want to see you be with my children. I will be kind to you. I will give you 30 minutes. It's not even just about teaching what's in front of you and making kids who are scrolling, where again, seconds take too long, but moments are really what's grabbing their attention, looking at you sideways like, you don't know what you're doing, do you? And you really don't want to be here, do you? Do you even care? Am I wasting your time? And then they'll just tune you out and talk smack about you to your face, because now we're not even worrying or thinking about being discreet behind your back. You have kids who are going to stand flat-footed, half your height, telling you that you may be stupid and that you don't know what you're doing. And so there are so many pieces to break down about all this, Ann fam, and that's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about next week, actually. Because again, as an educator in ELA, as well as African American history and literature, I really do not knock my fellow educators who put emphasis on STEM for our black and brown kids, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But let me say this. I'm very intrigued by this story, and I'm very moved by his tears, because I'd be lying if I said that I myself haven't felt kind of bad. Like, we're putting push on these really powerful, lucrative, important subjects. Don't get me wrong, but if my kids can't fill out a resume and can't give a presentation, you may have all the technology and engineering in the world, but if you can't read the fine print of your contract, then what do we do wrong as educators and as part of the community to make you think that that's not important? And that's kind of where I get a little upset. I'm not angry, y'all. I'm passionate. As a matter of fact, if you talk to me at some point this summer, I talked about how my summer reading this summer actually is a book by Dr. Goldie Muhammad. This is just so funny this is happening in our world right now. It's a book called Cultivating Genius, and it's the subtitle is An Equity Framework for Culturally and Historically Responsive Literacy. And it's all really about how historically for Black and brown children it has been, we're talking about since the Reconstruction period after 1865 when we were freed. But it's really, this book is about how important it is to remember that it's not just about knowing how to read. Good morning, Claire. But it's also about remembering that it doesn't just make it so that you can break down what's in front of you. It's about bringing imagination to life. It's about making sure that you understand completely that your words, your ideas have power. We've been able to take the illiteracies that held us back during the time of slavery and could get you killed if you learned how to read. And we were able to take that and make it powerful. How the North Star that was published by Frederick Douglass really did inform folk that yes, the Wusa, again, not angry, just passionate. Ha! Not just being able to use the oral tradition to our advantage, but the written word made us even more empowered. And so this book really, again, I've been reading it all summer. That's why it's so bent up, because I take it with me everywhere I go. But this book really just, I think, is quite intriguing, where it does put emphasis, on how important it is for our children to understand that knowing not just what to read and how to read, but how to absorb what you read is important. And I quote page 12 of the book. Students need spaces to name and critique injustice to help them ultimately develop the agency to build a better world. As long as opposition is present in the world, young people need pedagogy that nurtures criticality. A very long way of saying you need to know what's happening, and you need to be able to use the written word to critique what's happening in your world. Yes, I talk about this a lot, how, quite frankly, I'm kind of like on the older side of young and the younger side of old. It's something that I don't want to get lost because our screens are in our faces and they continuously teach our children not how to think, but what to think. I mean, again, it's an age-old United Negro College Fund statement, and mind is a terrible thing to waste. And even though when I was growing up, I heard that a lot because, seeing those UNCF commercials, they make me cry now. I have to admit that embracing it and digesting it as an adult is something that is even more important now that I'm seeing how lack of resources, or even lack of interest, or just putting our children through the system, through IEPs and more and less. It's like, hey, let's just get y'all out of here. And then what? You become a statistic because you graduated 18 and you might not know exactly what you want to do, but did we give you enough tools to make a sound decision so that you don't spend the next 18 months on your parents' couches trying to figure out what you're going to do tomorrow? I know I'm getting a little preachy, fam, but again, this is something that I really do want to continue to dig deeper into, especially since in 2 weeks, the school year, the 2026-2027 school year begins here in Philadelphia. To my fellow educators, I know that you are starting PD, professional development, this week and next week. So my heart goes out to you. You've got this. I know it's a lot. They may ask you questions like, what is your why? But let me tell you something, even if it might kind of feel like, if I hear that question one more time, I need you to know that I am cheering you on. I know that was a lot, fam. Let's blame the English breakfast. But I do know that we can do this if we continue to stand in solidarity together. That we are so incredibly powerful when we put our heads together, our minds together, our hearts together, and we look for the answers together as a community. It may not look like it affects you directly, but trust me, it will affect you in the long run. Better to be part of it in the beginning of the conversation than come late to the party. You're going to be all right. I got you, fam. You got me. You got this. Love and light to you all. Peace.